Are you looking to change the battery on your Theta Z1 camera? This video is for you. Disclaimer, do not do this. This will void your warranty. If you purchase this camera new, please explore those options first, as that's the best solution. But if you're like me, bought this secondhand on Facebook Marketplace, this is a great option for you to upgrade and extend the battery life. I purchased this battery on Amazon for $39. You're also going to need to have a set of tools. I recommend purchasing a small tech kit off Amazon. It's like $10. You're going to need a T3 star bit and a 1.5 size Phillips. So let's get into it. You need to identify several screws that are placed on the exterior of your Theta. One big mistake that I made the first time I did this was not removing the bottom sticker. What you're going to find when you remove this is there are actually several screws you're going to want to start with here. So take that sticker off. You don't really need it. It just kind of protects the base of this plate. So what you're going to want to start with is identifying which panel you need to remove. So on the Theta Z1, there's a panel that has the LCD screen. You want to make sure that you don't remove any screws that will inhibit this part of the Theta. You're going to want to flip it over, and this is the plate that we're going to be removing to replace the battery. So when you look at the bottom of this, you're going to see several screws. We need to remove these ones here. 1, 2, 3, 4. That's going to allow us to open up the entire side of the Theta, as well as pop the back off this. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to start with these 4, and then I'm going to remove these 2 on either side here and show you what that looks like. So I'm starting with the star bit. Remember, you need a T3. And I'm going to show this in real time. That way you can keep track. And one thing too, make sure you have a spot to put these little screws because they will get lost. And if you don't want to see this portion, feel free to fast forward. But again, I'm just going to leave it in. That way you can follow along in real time. And don't put a lot of pressure on these. You can strip them very easily. They're very delicate little screws. Okay, so I've removed those 3 with the star bit. This one is a Phillips, so I'm going to move to the sides and just double check. Yeah, okay, so there's one more star bit here. All right, so now I'm going to swap the end on my screwdriver. And this little screwdriver kit is fantastic. It has a little magnetic feature built in so that these screws don't fall when you're removing them or placing them in. So I'm back in the bottom here. I'm removing this screw again. Okay, one more. Okay, now that we have those screws removed, we can start by removing these exterior plates. So I recommend using a little tool, and you're just delicately here, you don't need a lot of force, just delicately slide this out. And what you'll notice on mine is the first time I did this, I actually broke the base plate because I didn't realize that there were screws underneath. Yours will be different, hopefully, while watching this video. So we're just going to set this aside. I'm going to remove the rest of that. And this other side just, delicately fell out. So again, you don't need a lot of force for any of this. If you find that you are having to forcefully remove this, stop. Make sure that you removed all the screws correctly. And then lastly, I'm going to remove this bottom plate here. Okay, there we go. So what this did is it revealed additional screws. So you're going to notice that there are several screws now available on either side of this device. Keep in mind, we do not want to remove the screws that attach the LCD screen. We only want to remove the screws that are attached to this base plate. So when you're looking at the bottom of this, identify the screws that are attached to only this back plate and remove those. And it is a Phillips So I'm going to get started here, and I'm just going to keep these screws separate. They are a different color. They're silver, just to keep that in mind. You want to make sure that you put these back in kind of the same order. So on this side that has the button layout, there's only 2 screws that you need to remove. And then on the flip side, we have 1, 2, 3 screws that we need to remove. One other thing that you don't see on mine that you may see on yours is there's several pieces of tape that were covering these screws. Again, if you've reached this point and you still have that tape on your device, once you remove that, you're voiding your warranty. So only do this if you are accepting the fact that you will not have a warranty moving forward. So let's begin. So we're going to remove these on this side. And remember, you shouldn't have to use a lot of force on these. If you're finding that when you're removing them, they're very difficult, you may not have the proper sized Phillips or star bit, and you may want to swap that out. Okay, so I removed the 3 that were holding this back plate on this side, and then on the side with the buttons, there were 2. And then I'm just going to double check that I removed the ones holding the bottom plate for the back plate. And now we're ready to pop this off. So you do need to remove this additional bottom screw, and then these top 2 screws anchor it as well. So we are working through this together in real time. So I'm just going to remove these additional 3 screws. I apologize for making that mistake at the beginning of this video, but that's why we're doing this together. Okay, so now we have these 3 additional screws removed, and now this plate is going to very gently lift off of our Theta. All right, so now our Theta is open. We want to be very careful that we don't damage any of these internal functions. So we're going to set this delicately to the side. And now you'll notice that your battery is here. This has double-sided tape keeping it adhered to this backside or the front side of this Theta. So what you're going to want to do is just very gently, again, take a tool of some sort and just gently pry this up. Very, very delicately. I can't stress that enough. You do not want to damage where the battery is inputted into the Theta. And if you're using this prying on the side with the buttons, you don't want to damage any of this. So just very gently pry this up. And you'll hear that tape kind of lifting. That's okay. Again, it's just double-sided tape back here. But we want to reuse that. So we don't want to damage the double-sided tape as well. So you'll see there, this was where the double-sided tape was keeping the battery in place. Now we're ready to replace it with the new Theta battery. So I'm going to open that up. And remember, you want to use genuine products. I initially had swapped this out with a third-party battery, and it wasn't the proper power output. While it did technically work, the Theta camera was registering it as an error, so I recommend spending $40, getting the proper replacement. So when you're inputting the battery back into your Theta, you really want to make sure that you're lining up these 3 little battery sections with these 3 inputs on the Theta. And keep your double-sided tape in place, or if you need to replace this, please do so now. You want to make sure that this battery does not move at all. So we're going to place it back in. We're going to push it against these 3 battery prongs and then delicately press it in place. And then before we start putting this back together, we want to make sure that these battery ports are aligned. And I'm just pressing this firmly against the double-sided tape, ensuring that it is making adhesion so that this battery isn't going to move around when we put the cover back on. Okay. All right. So I'm going to power on the Theta just to make sure that this is properly installed. So I'm going to hold this for a couple seconds. 2, 3. We're getting the blue light. That's a great sign. And we're going to let this power on fully and make sure that we don't get any error messages. All right. Fantastic. So what you'll notice if you input an incorrect powered battery, you'll get a little exclamation mark next to the battery symbol. And that's signifying that the Theta camera is not recognizing the battery correctly. And you need to replace it with the proper battery. It is the DB110. And you can confirm this on the Theta website. But again, it's the DB110. It's available on Amazon. It's $40. All right, so now that everything is confirmed working, we're ready to put this back together. So I'm going to power off the camera before we start. All right, cool. So now we're just going to do everything in reverse order. It's pretty simple. So I'm going to put the plate back on. One thing to keep in mind, you want to be very careful not to damage your camera. So we're going to just very gently be placing this cover back on and making sure that we don't scratch this. Okay. All right. So the camera's back is connected. Now we just need to go in reverse order and attach all of the screws again. So I'm going to start with the top 2 that I had missed originally and then put the bottom plate on. Okay. Now when you're doing this, do not use a lot of force. It is just tight enough to where you feel that tension. Do not go any farther. You will strip these small screws and then you have a problem on your hands. So just very delicately go one by one. If you're met with resistance, something isn't lined up correctly, readjust and make sure that these are going in very smoothly. All right, one more for here. Okay. These small screws can be frustrating at times, but just take a deep breath and know that you just saved yourself $1,000 by replacing your battery. Oftentimes you'll see sellers selling their Theta cameras for next to nothing. I think I picked mine up for under $200 because the seller wasn't able to use it anymore, but simply replacing the battery has restored this camera to its full potential once again. All right, so now I need to switch over to my star bit and place the bottom screws back on. Oh, this one was a Phillips. Swap back. I can't stress enough about having the proper screwdriver and bit set for doing any of these small, tiny screws. You can't use one that you get from the hardware store. All right, another one. Okay, one more. Okay, now I'm back to the star bit. So I'm gonna swap this back. Okay, so now that we have the initial plate secured, just double check, nothing's moving. One thing I noticed is sometimes this button panel will get shifted, and if this doesn't look flush, you may have to take that panel back off, set it in its correct position, and then put those screws back in. All right, so now we can put the protective covers back on. One here. I'm gonna put that screw in. Okay. The second one just goes in and then slides forward. They all have like this little tongue and groove system. So let me pop this back out. Oh, doesn't want to. Okay. So you'll notice there's like a tongue and groove. So there's a little tongue here and a little groove on this side. So you're just sliding these in. If you do this incorrectly, again, it won't sit flush. It'll sit too high and you'll know that something is wrong. So make sure it sits flush and just everything is gentle, not having to force anything throughout this process. So be very gentle. Okay. Then we have one screw at the bottom here. And the final piece, which on mine, again, I broke this because I didn't remove that bottom sticker when I started. So yours is going to look a little bit different than mine. Fortunately, this hasn't impacted the function of the camera at all, but it was something that I learned that hopefully you don't have to make the same mistake. So I'm putting the tongue and groove in at the top here, and then pushing this down. This one's a little harder because it's so long. Okay, there we go. So again, we want to make sure everything is sitting flush. Mine is not, so I know something is wrong here. So let me look at this. Okay, so on the back side of this, you have these little tongue and groove plastic pieces. I just damaged mine, and it won't impact the function of your Theta camera, but don't make the mistake I just did. I pushed a little bit too hard, so there was a little plastic groove here, and there's a little plastic groove here. This one is now broken. So I just need to pop this off. These are normally sitting up like this, so normally these are up high. I foolishly just made the mistake I warned you not to make, so in real time you're seeing this. Be so gentle with this product. It's very, very delicate. So this little tiny piece here should be sitting up straight like this. And it lines up with this little groove system here. So I'm going to reset and do this again. There we go. All right, so now that I lined that up correctly, it is sitting flush and secure. I can place these screws back in at the top and the bottom. You don't need to move fast with this. As you can see, I made some mistakes, and you want to make sure you try to avoid those so that you can continue to use your Theta camera for many years to come. And you want to be able to replace these batteries as needed, as many times as needed. So again, mine is damaged. So this little plastic piece would normally be right here. So now the part that I had broken is back in. Yours hopefully is not broken, and that part just slides seamlessly back on. I'm gonna put the screw in. This is my final screw, and we're finished. If you wanted to place the sticker back on, you certainly can. Again, for my purpose, I'm going to, because it's gonna help keep that broken piece together. But that's it. So you have now replaced your battery and made your Theta Z basically brand new again. And if you do this correctly, you will not damage the camera, but again, you will void your warranty. So do it at your own risk. If you make a mistake with this, they will not replace your camera. But again, if you're like me, you bought it used, this is a great alternative to purchasing a brand new camera. And for $50 for the tools and the battery, this is a great upgrade. And now I will have a full battery, which in theory will extend my life to what it was out of the box. And if you like this video, subscribe for more tech tips. I do a lot of photography tutorials as well as a podcast, and I primarily work in real estate. So if you're looking to stay on trend with real estate videography and photography, and you'd like to see more videos like this, please subscribe. Thank you for being here, and I hope this helped.